Hi there, my name is Thomas, and today we'll present to you our work Rules of Engagement Leveling Up to Combat Unethical CUI Design. This project is a collaborative effort that was realized together with Philip Doyle, Gianluca Savino, and my supervisor Rainer Malak. But before we begin, I would like to ask you all to please turn on your notifications. You can either choose Not Now and ask you again in a minute, or simply comply. This is an often seen example of the so-called nagging dark pattern that was previously described by Gray et al. And it works by influencing its users by not providing any option to permanently dismiss the message. Now, though this example stems from a GUI context, it's not too difficult to imagine it in a CUI-related context. For this presentation, I generated the following utterances using text-to-speech for an example.
If you don't want to miss out on amazing offers, please confirm, and I'll tell you the latest news about our products.
It basically says the following.
Please let me annoy you frequently.
You may have noticed it, but the voice in this utterance resembles a certain Sir David Attenborough. Using voices that sound frighteningly similar to popular personas, the extent of manipulation is unimaginable. And what's meant as a joke in the context of this presentation can actually be used to harm people in the form of dark patterns. But what are dark patterns? Dark patterns are user interface design choices that benefit an online service by coercing, steering, or deceiving users into making decisions that, if fully informed, incapable of selecting alternatives they might not make. Given this very good definition, it is still not very easy to identify and recognize dark patterns on site. This is because similar design strategies can also be used in different contexts that are harmless, for example in the form of nudges. Imagine you're walking down the aisle of your favorite grocery store. What we notice first are usually those items that are placed directly on high height. And there's a good reason for it, because we can be biased by items that we see first and buy them. But how do we know whether design is a neutral design and harmless, a mere nudge, or a malicious dark pattern? This is often very case-specific, and numerous scholars have already begun to compile a growing taxonomy of dark patterns with very specific definitions. In fact, the taxonomy this work is based on comprises 62 individual types of dark patterns, far too many to easily assess when trying to evaluate an interface. And the problem is that most definitions for these types of dark patterns are highly contextual, making them difficult to be applied in new domains, such as CUIs. We therefore propose an alternative take that can be extracted from Mature et al.'s dark pattern attributes and their characteristics. The authors define 5 attributes that each encapsulate more abstract strategies by looking into which cognitive biases they actually exploit. By relying on cognitive biases instead of individual use cases for dark patterns, we gain an advantage as the likeliness of our course type changing is lower than malicious practitioners' ability to adapt their strategies to new regulations. Based on 5 simple questions that we formulated very closely around Mature et al.'s attributes, we propose the following approach based on a prior work looking at GUIs. However, we do believe that it is relevant and important enough to be discussed in the CUI community, as it allows us to derive dark pattern scores, which we can use to assess the darkness of any design. We begin by identifying problems that lie within an interface. In the context of CUIs, this could be unwanted notifications or hidden subscriptions that are hard to identify when nested deep within a dialog. In a second step, the current interaction can then be analyzed using the 5 questions. Each of the 5 questions is phrased in a way that allows quantification from 1 to 5, or from not at all to extremely. In the last phase, the determination phase, we get a resulting score that is the average of the accumulated scores for each of the characteristics. By basing this approach on cognitive biases that apply in any interface context, we believe that this approach can be very robust while also being easy to implement. Certainly, further research is needed to actually verify this approach. Now, I'm aware that most of the presented examples link to graphical user interfaces. However, we want to motivate this community to consider this existing corpus of research in our future works when we design novel interactions in CUIs. Compared to GUIs, dark pattern research in CUIs has just begun. There is, however, a relevant corpus of works looking into ethical and unethical questions in the CUI domain. We believe that it is worthwhile to combine strength with dark pattern research to tackle these problems from both sides. Unlike GUIs, where dark patterns are widely deployed and manipulated users, with CUIs we can actually get a head start by learning from this research to identify problems before people are harmed. Thank you very much for your attention. In case you have any questions, please find our contact details on this last slide.